All right, I declare the meeting open and welcome you to the October meeting of Council. The recording of this Council meeting will be available to the public on Council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with Council policy, I will now ask Council staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, ma'am.
Thank you, Sandy. I'd first of all like to acknowledge that we meet today on the land of the Malacca people, the traditional custodians of this land. Our Aboriginal people have a deep spiritual connection to country and they've cared for our waterways and our land for over 40,000 years in Tasmania. We pay our respects to their customs, their elders, past, present and emerging. In attendance this evening, we have Councillor Deputy Mayor Doyle, we have Councillor Newell, Councillor O'May, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Bird, Councillor Prince and Councillor Gibson. Welcome to our councillors. And I'll introduce the General Manager, Emilio Reali. Emilio, would you like to introduce your staff that are here this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have Director of Legal and Governance Services, Matthew Grimsey, Acting Director of Infrastructure Services, Jade Jones, Director of Corporate Services, David Spinks, Director of Community Services, Rebecca Stevenson, Director of Environment and Development Services, Luke Chu, and support staff we have Executive Assistant Sandy Rustell and ICT Officer Michael Glazer. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. We do have one apology this evening, and that is Councillor Wilson. There is no leave of absence and there is no one absent. We move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. I'll ask the councillors, do they have any item on tonight's agenda where they feel there is a declaration of interest to announce? That is no one. Thank you very much. We move on next to confirmation of minutes. Is somebody happy to move the minutes from the 30th of September, please? Yes, Councillor Lovell, followed by Councillor O'May as a seconder. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Thank you. There are no legislative items. Item 6, there are no urgent matters. And number 7, are there any announcements from councillors this evening, please? Councillor May, did you have an announcement you wanted to make this evening?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to bring to everybody's attention our great rivalry of football we have in the valley, and the two teams which are, have competed, being Cygnet and Huonville. Great game on Saturday, and I'd also like to say a couple of things here to David O'Neill as President of the Cygnet Football Club and Todd Caldwell, the President of the Huonville Football Club. Amazing efforts you two guys have put in, and to the coaches, and to this year's STFL sponsors, EIS, Property, Hobart, Clothing and Elevate Wealth, and also for Will Clennet and Mitre 10 for sponsoring the balls, and Mitre 10 have already come forward and put their hand up to be the major sponsor for football for next year, which is a great effort. And I'd also like to mention the fact that to have 3 sides for the Huonville Football Club in the grand final, and also the underage from Cygnet winning the grand final, Huonville Seniors winning the grand final, Huonville Reserves not bringing home the chocolates, and the girls. But I'd like to make a special mention to the girls' performance up against a team that hasn't lost a game all year. They've improved out of sight, and amazing effort to see them get to where they were. And first quarter, there was nothing in the game. And just for football in general, to see the girls integrated into what's been predominantly a male domain. Over previous years, we now have a gender-neutral game, and to see the girls in the clubs with the boys celebrating on the weekend was inspiring. And one other mention, that's to the volunteers of both clubs, to Signet and Huon. Amazing efforts, these volunteers. They work tirelessly behind the scenes and have contributed to a great club atmosphere, and definitely worth a mention there. So it's been a great achievement for football in southern Tasmania and the Huon Valley, to think that the valley has shone out and from a small consumer base of people that we have here, to come out tops in football in the whole of southern Tasmania is just great.
Absolutely. Hear, hear, Councillor O'May. Thank you for raising that. Are there any other announcements? No? All right, lovely. We'll move on to item 8, which is public participation. So now that council has improved their visual recording ability by installing additional cameras, which we have here in the room tonight, councillors will attend council ordinary meetings in person. With COVID-19 restrictions in place, council will continue to service the public question time through emails sent to the governance office. So where questions can be answered, the question and answer will be recorded at tonight's meeting. Where questions cannot be answered, the question will be taken on notice and answered at the November council meeting. Question time is limited to 15 minutes, and public questions were received up to 12 noon today, and all questions and answers have been uploaded to council's meeting page for public viewing prior to the council meeting start time. We move on to 8.1.1, and there are no answers for questions, previous questions taken on notice. There are no questions on notice, but there are 2 questions without notice that I have this evening. So the first question, I will go to Elizabeth Marshall of Judbury. Elizabeth's question is, you receive $40,000 a year in rates in She Oak Road, Judbury, yet our road never receives the attention it deserves. Why is that? You could hire profile, grader, good gravel, etc. and do the job better, and it would last longer with the money you receive from just the residents on this road. Can you come on, give Judbury a look and start doing the job you were elected for? Elizabeth, the question you have asked can actually be easily answered by contacting our council staff. We ask residents to lodge a service request for road maintenance on council's website, or phone customer service on 6264 0300 to report the conditions of any road, and in this case She Oak Road in Judbury. That is actually a standard response that we do actually encourage all of our residents to do that in the first instance. The matter you raise is an operational matter and will be referred tonight to the Infrastructure Department for road maintenance, and will be completed to council's approved service levels. And the General Manager, Emilio, who's next to me, has assured me that this request will be actioned. Thank you for your question. We have 2 more questions here from Mr. Jeffrey Swan of Lonavale, and they are the final questions that we have received for tonight. So the first question is, in the past week, I have asked our respective councillors to assist me in how to phrase a public question around the ever-increasing difficulties members of our community are experiencing when dealing with our council staff on matters of building and planning. The issues I have highlighted to our councillors have come to the attention of my wife and I from residents in our community over the past 12 months, almost all of whom wish to remain anonymous for obvious reasons, and from people interstate inquiring about living in the Huon Valley. Has a question here. What suggestions do our elected councillors have to improve this important function of our Huon Valley Council? And the answer is, the question provides, so Mr. Swan, your question provides no specific examples that can be investigated or responded to. I would encourage anyone in the community who feels that they have been mistreated to contact the council with the details. General inquiries relating to planning and building should be directed straight to those areas. If customers feel matters are not resolved appropriately, they can be escalated to the director and then to the general manager. Formal complaints can also be lodged via the complaints management process outlined with the Customer Service Charter on the HVC website. The next question is, how aware are our councillors that there are people leaving our valley because of their difficulties and experiences in dealing with our council, and that the word is spreading around the valley and interstate and on social media? Again, Mr. Swan, the question provides no specific examples that can be investigated or responded to. I have, however, personally attended several planning meetings with prospective developers recently and received positive feedback from the proponents regarding the process. And I have actually witnessed, personally myself, real engagement between the planning staff and the actual people that are wanting to develop in the Huon Valley. And the language and the discussion has been very respectful. So I can actually say firsthand that I have every confidence that when people contact the council and ask to speak to the planning department, that they will be heard, they will be listened, and they will be treated with respect. And I know that the director, Luke Chu of the planning department, has been working very hard to actually make a whole range of customer-friendly improvements with his staff. And I just wanted to add that for those that are listening as well as you, Mr. Swan. But we really do need very specific details if we are ever to be able to respond to people if they have any concerns. Thank you for your questions. So we go on to 8.2, and there are no deputation addresses to council. We go on to item 9, and there are 2 petitions this evening, and I'm going to ask the General Manager if he could speak to both of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I table a petition lodged with Council on the 9th of October 2020 titled Change.org Petition No Highways in Crabtree, Judbury or Lachlan as follows. We, the undersigned, call on the study's proponents to A. Scrap the current road and track upgrade proposals through Crabtree, Judbury, Lachlan and the high conservation areas of West Wellington. B. Protect the natural values of West Wellington and Wellington Park for generations to come. And C. Instead, re-evaluate the cheaper and less contentious development of the Plenty Link Road, which offers many tourism and freight advantages, including being a far cheaper alternative. The Plenty Link Road is a lower altitude, already suitable for large freight trucks, has less impact on rural communities, goes through the state forest and plantations, and offers access to far south destinations, Lake Pedder and the Styx Valley. The petition is to the Huon Valley Council, Derwent Valley Council, Tasmanian Department of State Growth, Tasmanian Department of Infrastructure, Energy and Resources, and the Premier, Peter Gutwin. But the petition is an electronic petition stated to contain 2,039 signatories and complies with the requirements of Section 57(2) of the Local Government Act 1993. And there is a recommendation, Mayor.
The recommendation reads that the petition titled Change.org Petition No Highways in Crabtree, Judbury or Lachlan, lodged with Council on the 9th of October 2020, be received. Shall we move the motion at this point for that particular one? Thank you. So I'd like calling for a councillor to move that motion. Yes, Councillor Newell. A seconder, Councillor Prince. Do you have anything to say on the matter, Councillor Newell?
I'm in agreement with the motion.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the second petition.
Thank you, Mayor. I now table a petition lodged with the Council 5th of October 2020 as follows. We, the undersigned, hereby request that Council, first dot point, rescinds its decision to locate new cricket nets as proposed in the addendum of the draft Franklin Recreation Precinct Plan. Second dot point, locate the proposed new nets immediately adjacent to the existing tennis court. The petition contains 177 signatories and complies with requirements of Section 57(2) of the Local Government Act 1993. And there is a recommendation as well, Mayor.
Thank you. And the recommendation reads that the petition objecting to the proposed location of cricket nets at Franklin Recreation Ground lodged with Council on the 5th of October 2020 be received. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor Gibson. Seconder, please. Councillor Campbell. Councillor Gibson, do you have anything to say?
I guess only that it's obvious that community engagement is a very difficult thing to achieve, and I'd like to work on improving it so that these difficulties in community divisions don't resolve.
Thank you. So all those in favour, if you could raise your hands, please. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. So we move on to our first report for this evening, which is the Franklin Master Plan Stage 3 Sporting Precinct Amendment. Councillors, please refer to the recommendation before us this evening, which you'll find at the back of this report. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Thank you. Yes, Councillor Campbell. A seconder, please. Yes, Councillor Newell. Thank you. Councillor Campbell, do you have any opening comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say I think it's difficult for councillors to be confronted with something like this. I'd like to congratulate Daniel Ford. I think he's been very amenable in trying to work with the community, which is what we all try to achieve as councillors. And I'd also like to congratulate Rebecca Stevenson for her measured approach taken, towards seeking a satisfactory outcome for both parties. We, in this democratic society, we have opportunities to appeal decisions, and recognising that puts us in a rather difficult situation, because being a democratic society, that's what we can achieve through that legal system. So I know that one of the recognitions I think was important for the Southern Tigers was the fact that it may not suit the where the nets were actually located in the end, and that's certainly a risk implication for council. However, I think the thing that I recognise is that, the thing that I highlight is it's in an interest of being good neighbours, and I think that's where Daniel has made every effort to work with the community. And in that sense, we have the petition, the petitioners. We also have Daniel exercising his democratic rights. So I think that in a way usurps, he's actually taken it out of our hands in a sense morally. But I think, we've made a decision before, and that's what's before us tonight. So I just wanted to thank everybody involved in it. And I know everyone's got a certain passion, and I think it's really important that those passions are recognised, and it's difficult that we're just left now to make another decision. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So, councillors, open for discussion. Yes, Councillor Lovell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure if I can be heard. I'd just like to say that I believe the club needs to have modern and practical facilities to be able to use at the rec ground there, wherever that ends up being. But at the same time, with this proposal, and where the nets are now said to be going, I don't support the destruction of the half court that's there that it's going to be covering. So I just want to make that known.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle?
Yeah, to you, Mayor. I don't agree either. I'm wondering what's going to happen if they want another tennis court at some stage. The room's going to be taken up. I just think I've already voted on this, and I'm just a little annoyed that it's back before us again. So no, I won't be voting for it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gibson?
I mean, I think that we have to listen to all the areas, sections of the community on these things and compromise when we need to. I strongly support building nets for the sporting cricket club for health and social benefits, and especially for our young people. I can also see that the heritage values and connection to the river are key points of difference for Franklin that are highly valued by many in that community. So therefore the aim, I think, is to, and this I guess probably should have been the aim from the very beginning, was to provide new nets in a position that functions for the club and minimises obstruction of the river views. So the cricket club has asked us to alter the location of the nets to this new position adjacent to the tennis courts, which meets the aims, and so I support their request.
Thank you. Councillor Neal?
Yeah, look, I'll be supporting the amendment. I think that right from the start I've made it pretty plain that I think that the cricket net should be next to the tennis courts. I believe if we need to expand the tennis club, there is plenty of room behind the tennis club. Might not be next to it, but behind it there's tons of room. I think that we've got to listen to the people that live in Franklin. And from what the time I've had at the shed and the amount of visitors I've had, I've been overwhelmed with the people that don't want anything to change down there. They want the courts where they are. And honestly, I think there's no better place for them. If you go to Blunston Arena, the practice nets are they're right outside. They're nowhere near the ground. North Hobart Football Oval, they're near down towards the end, Brooker Highway and beyond. They're still well and truly in cricket ball throw of the club rooms. I think it's a win for the community and for the cricket club and for the council with less money to spend on it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor May?
Yes, Mayor. I tend to agree with Councillor Newell. After discussing the issue with Councillor Newell, I went down and was privileged to have the area marked out. The comments that Councillor Newell's just tabled are very on the mark in my view. I'd also like to commend the president of the cricket club, Daniel, for his perseverance and his ideas and willingness to negotiate and accept a compromise in this plan. And I'd also like to agree with Councillor Bird's suggestion that these guys really need a modern, up-to-date facility where they can progress their skills and training, and as the current site will save some money that's proposed, I believe that we should be doing everything in our power as a council to help that process. And I will be supporting the amendment.
Thank you.
Can I say one other thing? Sorry. The other thing that I was privileged to see whilst I was there, which I hadn't taken into consideration after having the area marked out, was the amount of people that were walking their dogs up and down that particular area and utilising the area to see that happening. It gives you a different perspective on that particular area.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Prince?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to say to Daniel Ford, you have my utmost respect, mate. I can imagine there'd be members of the club that aren't happy with the decision the club's made. and it takes some real respect and leadership to be able to make hard decisions like that. So yeah, feel free to contact me anytime, mate. You have my utmost respect for the way you've approached things. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Prince. Are there any questions before I say anything? No? Okay, because then we go to a close after that. Thank you. So yes, the latest correspondence from Daniel Ford has given me the direction of where I will need to go. I will absolutely respect what he has put into writing and the request he's made of council. And I couldn't agree with you more, Councillor Prince. Absolute heartfelt. Daniel's a very mature young man, way beyond his years, and I have a lot of respect for him too. And understanding his challenges. Look, I did want to make a comment though on petitions, since we have got a petition that's in relation to this particular item, and that is I do support petitions. They have a role. I did have a look at all the names that were on the petition, and I do recognise many of them. In fact, a lot of them are my friends as well, I'll say it here. And I just thought about what are the cohort. Franklin's very fortunate that it has 4 precincts. It has a marine precinct, it has a sporting precinct, it has a village green, and then it has a camping precinct. And we're very fortunate that in Franklin you get a river view in the marine precinct when you're driving past. It's not cluttered with trees, or as much as some people would love lots of trees there. You've got beautiful views over the oval. Once again, you can see through the trees that are there. You go to the village green, you've got lovely river views there again. And I'm just conscious of the age cohort that actually use the sporting precinct. The oval particularly is what I'm talking about. Not the bowling club, but the oval. And I couldn't really see the age group represented in that particular petition of the actual users of the oval. Most of the sporting clubs are sort of like 40 years and younger that actually use those facilities. My only concern is that, yes, great leadership from Daniel Ford, and we want our young leaders to come forward, and we want them to personalise, to feel part of a community, and to actually feel that they're empowered to make positive change in their area, which would give them the interest to get onto some of these committees that I know lots of residents are looking for the young ones to come through. So just when we sign a petition, and I've never realised it more than now since I've been on council. When we sign a petition, you're actually accountable for what you're signing. And therefore, just know that, just have an understanding and perhaps even explore what might that impact be on others at the other end. That's all I have to say really on the matter. But I just am concerned that our youth actually had an opportunity to show leadership and have something occur the way that they wanted to for their future. And those young ones will be here far longer than I am. And I just wanted to leave that on that note. So, Councillor Campbell, would you like to summarise up, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'd just like to say, like Councillor Prince said, it's a big thing for a young man to have to make this decision on behalf of the club, and just his maturity, has stood out, and hopefully in the future. I mean, we would like to see young people more engaged, but it's difficult because they're often engaged with lots of other things like family and everything. But maybe as councils we could hopefully look forward to engaging with them more so they can actually be involved in different committees. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All right, that's a split vote. I'll call, if you can leave your hands up, please, the ones that are for. So that's Councillor Newell, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Prince, Councillor Gibson, Councillor O'May, Councillor Enders. Those against, please. That's Councillor Doyle and Councillor Lovell. Thank you. And the motion is carried. Good debate. Thank you. We now move on to item 10, which is general reports. And General Manager, would you like to speak to your operational report?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of items I'll highlight. In the economic development area, just to mention that on our Huon Valley, Tasmania website, stories and content continues to be added to the website with the release of the first brand-orientated Huon Beings videos, and that's focusing on local ceramicist Bronwyn Clark, and a second video was just released focusing on Phoenix Creations. Support is also being provided to host a number of visits from interested journalists, media and influencers, all of whom will be producing stories and editorial pieces for a variety of mainland publications, newspapers and digital outlets. Under communications and media, on our council's Facebook page, the most popular post again is a lost dog. 803 people engaged with that post. And also the Huonville Recreation Ground landscaping, the new path and hedge removal, 384 people engaged with that post. Huonville Swimming Pool, just to mention that we've commenced preparations for the reopening of the Huonville Pool for the summer season, and that includes recruitment of seasonal staff like lifeguards and preparation of pool surfaces. It's getting ready for filling, and we've had to develop COVID-safe plans. That is opening on the 31st of October. And that's all, Mayor, that I'll highlight.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, there is one other item that I just missed. Under climate change, just a note to remind people that Council launched the 50 kilowatt electric vehicle fast charger, and that's at Geeveston behind the Town Hall. That was on the 28th September, and I believe it's actually already getting a lot of use. This is the southernmost publicly accessible charger in Tasmania and allows electric vehicle drivers to have sufficient range to explore the far south. The charger was supported by a $50,000 grant from the state government. And that is it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, State Government. Thank you, Emilio. Right, so there's also the Human Resource Quarterly Update. Did you want to talk to that at all?
Just let me find that, Mayor. I actually thought that was actually in last month's, wasn't it?
No, it's sitting in there.
I was on leave last month,
Oh,
sorry,
that's
so I'm
course you
still
were.
catching up.
Fair enough.
Yep, here we are. We've actually started recruitment for some of the positions. During COVID, we actually put a freeze on all recruitment apart from the positions that we recognised would require filling or would cause us some issues. So some positions have started being recruited, and some of the ones that are recently filled are outlined in the report. You can see that they include planning officers, workplace health and safety officer, youth activities officer, practice nurse. We've also highlighted our staff turnover trends. So to date, calendar year, this is 5.88% turnover, which is a pretty good rate. So it's not too high, not too low. So that's actually tracking along quite well. The report does highlight and graph or pie charts where those movements have been. Training courses, so you can see there's been a number of training courses, completing our council strategic asset management planning. That was done via a webinar. Pool lifeguards, so we've done some training courses to get our lifeguards up to speed in accordance with the standards that we have to have. We've given out a certificate in events management. We've working with vulnerable people renewals, so 4 of those, and certificate in Pilates, mat work, and a first aid certificate. So there's a list of things that our HR area is working on. So we're still continuing a review of all of our policies. We're undertaking refresher training for Equal Opportunities Tasmania, so that's regarding workplace equality and discrimination. We continue to schedule all training and personal development plans that were identified in 2019-2020, and we're about to start our personal development plans for 2021. We actually participate in some mock interviews for students at the Huon Valley Trade Training Centre. We do that each year just to get students job ready, so it gives them a bit of experience in what an interview might entail. And 2610 Adult Literacy Program, so that commenced in July 2020, and we've got a number of staff attending a number of sessions that we have organised, so we're trying to get a lot of people through that. And so we continue to just liaise closely with our HR team to keep tabs on what's going on throughout the organisation. Happy to take any questions.
Yes, Councillor Newell.
Just one question for me on the charging stations, Emilio, that we've got in the valley now. How does the user pay?
I believe there's an app that they load onto their phone for the Geeveston one.
Yep.
And that gives them access. I think they tap the phone onto the charger.
Okay.
The one here in Huonville in the car park's actually just free. So it just they just plug it in.
So who pays for the power?
Council is paying for the power at the moment.
That won't be an ongoing thing though, surely?
No, it won't be a long-term thing, but it is there to encourage usage of electric vehicles and let people know that there are stations available, but at this point in time it's free.
Okay. Any idea for how much longer? Only because I know that commercial service stations, you know, are probably holding off putting in the area if we're offering free. Bennett's have started putting charging stations in nearly all their service stations now, but the Huon isn't one, while there's a free one in the car park.
So at the moment we're not aware of any charging stations in commercial properties. Once we're aware of that, then we will have to reconsider, because that will obviously have an impact on our...
Right, but if I was a commercial service station, I wouldn't put a charger in while you've got a free one, so...
Yep, well,
probably council will have to make the decision, I think, to charge people for power.
Yep.
We don't get free, free petrol.
No, that's true. No, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the General Manager in his report? No? Yes?
I have social recovery. Was you going to...
Yeah, I can do that
You'll do.
down towards when I ask for activities, if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
Sure, okay, that's cool. Okay, I just had a couple of comments more so about the planning report. It's just something of interest that I thought the community might be interested in, really, as well as councillors, is that, and Luke, I don't know if you want to make any comment, it's up to you, just that the planning lodgements have increased for September, an increase of, I have here, 33.87% compared to the same period in 2019. And for planning assessments, an increase of 42% compared to the same period in 2019. So that's quite an increase, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, Mayor, we certainly had a large number of applications through planning right through the whole COVID purported slowdown. Didn't happen in planning.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
I think of that fair bit of that, my daughter's included, is the government incentives, the money up front if you want to build a home. So they're all making hay while the sun shines with $25,000 or $45,000 in government incentives, which is great.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Newell. Yes, Councillor O'May.
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to congratulate our staff for doing such an amazing job with this increase. And going back to the questions on notice, it just goes to show you what a professional job that our staff are doing. And the increase in their workload, they need commending for their great effort, in my view.
Thank you. That's to you, Director Luke Chu. I have a question as well about the Huon Valley brand. Yep. So under media consultants on pages 47 to 50, 5 media channels have been invested in, and just wondering, would like to know how many readers or followers does each of the channels have?
We have that info.
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor. We don't have that information readily available, but we'll certainly have a look and get back to councillors on that.
Oh, lovely. Could that be at the next meeting then? That might
Yes, that can
be
be,
good.
yes.
That'd be great. Thank you. And also under the local directory, page 46, just to understand the percentage of businesses that have signed up to the local directory, what is the known number of businesses registered in the Huon Valley, just to understand that percentage?
So, Mayor, similar to the last question, so we'll take that on notice and report at the next council meeting.
No, that's fine. Absolutely fine. Look, I just wanted to also note that that report was very comprehensive, and I can truly see the level of activity that both the Manager of Economic Development and the officer that assists Michelle, which is Trina Mangles, are doing. They've really raised the level of activity, and they're driving it with passion, without a doubt. I know they're out there talking to businesses all the time as well, and working with the Huon Valley Tourism Network Group, as well as the Far South Tourism Group. And so I just want to give them every bit of encouragement to keep up the great work that they're doing. And in turn, I'll do everything I can possibly do in my role to help them at the higher level as well, to get the voice that they need. So, thank you. All right, so we now go on to the Mayor's activities report. So I'll just report on a couple of items. Last month was a very busy month for visiting Signet businesses, Southport and Dover businesses. I just wanted to check in with everybody to see how they were going and what help they might need as well. I was really pleased to learn that the 9 businesses that I visited in Signet, which are all very diverse in their business range, were doing really well. Some of them have had the best months they've ever had during COVID lockdown, for like Melbourne lockdown, if you know what I mean, with online sales. But they're really holding their own over there. They're doing really well. Southport and Dover, a bit of a different story, with Tahoon still closed Monday to Friday, and the Hastings Springs being closed as well. It's been pretty tough for them to actually draw people down there, unlike Signet that gets the Hobartians and people from sort of around that Hobart area that come down for day visits. So there's work that I'm doing in that area with the state government to try and get more attention on Geeveston actually to Southport. There were the public meetings for Jeffreys Track, and I know a few councillors attended that. Had a really great inspection of the Geeveston council vacant land. There was a few councillors that went out and looked over the land, and that was really informative for all of us, particularly if we didn't have really good local knowledge. So that was very successful, and we've got Signet that we're going to be doing as well, which is exciting. And as Emilio mentioned, the launch of the EV fast charger, that was great. And with Nick Street, MP. And then I was a guest speaker at Circular Economy Huon event and the Salvation Army drugs and alcohol event as well. So, and that's it from me. The next item we have there is Youth Committee minutes, the 21st of September. Director of Community Services, was there something you want to speak to on this one?
Very short update to the meeting. So the Youth Committee finalised the Mental Health Week messaging, so the 6 steps to having a conversation that was released last week during Mental Health Week. They also have introduced the monthly topic, the conversation topic. So this month, or in the month of September, it was focusing on the environment, and they drilled down on key issues which included pollution, illegal dumping and roadside rubbish. asking some key questions within those areas. So there's some good feedback there from a youth perspective on what they see as some of the challenges in the valley that we can look towards adopting through some of our work practices.
Thank you, Rebecca. There's the Arts and Culture Committee meeting minutes for the 23rd of September. Over to the Chair, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate the staff that work with the community in the Arts and Culture Committee. I think that the Art Box has been an outstanding success. It's just something, when I saw it, I was just blown away by the professional look of it. And I think the staff have worked really hard in community services, working with the community and delivering the Art Box, which is really, really unique, I think. And I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity because it's portable. And I think that's really a great opportunity for all the townships to be included in something that is so special. So I just really like to thank the staff for all their hard work, because it has been a combination of all different groups working together. But when you all work together, you see how you can get a fantastic outcome. So I'd just like to congratulate the staff and also all those artists that have been involved in, doing some pretty amazing stuff. I think we're very lucky in the Huon that we've got so many creative people, and they're all spread throughout the valley, and that's lovely. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell, and compliment to Director of Community Services and her team. The next minutes that are on the list here are Ranelagh Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee minutes. That was predominantly, the last meeting was predominantly about the marquee, and there is a report in tonight's agenda, isn't there? Yes, that's right. So I probably won't expand on that because that was pretty much what it was about. So I'll leave that one. Now the next minutes is the audit panel minutes of the 6th of October 2020. The two members, councillor members that are on that committee are Deputy Mayor Sally Doyle and Councillor Campbell. Have you worked out who might like to speak to that tonight?
I'll go, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, to you, Mayor. We had a really thorough meeting and settled in quite well, I believe. I think one of our new members, Cam, asked lots of questions, and that's really good. So, well, everything that we went through and everything the two guys went through came up with the same solution or same answer, that the Huon Valley's in top notch. And there's nothing that they can find that we can do better at the moment. So they're really happy. So, yeah, that's all, ma'am.
Very good for very early days.
Yep.
Yeah, good, thank you. Are there any councillors wishing to table and talk to their activities this evening, please?
I have some.
Yes, thank you.
I'll give them to Sandy later.
Certainly, thank you.
Yeah, so in September, I went to the launch of to have a look at the Little Book of Queenies at the Huonville Primary School. And that's a program that Council signed a letter of support for, and the Bendigo Bank supported. It's a program for children in teaching them how to tell somebody if things aren't right. So it's predominantly set around domestic violence, but it also teaches the children to have that knowledge on what they can do and who they can report to. So the two ladies are doing a marvellous job in that area. I also had a meeting about the Garrard Sail Trail. We are supporting everybody to jump on board on that. Martin has decided that the waste station is a Garrard Sail Trail every day. So it doesn't need to make it, predominantly, because they do that every day. That's what they do. So, yeah, that's all. And we did have, a thank you for Linda at the Geefton Town Hall. Company had a a thank you to Linda around at the Community Hotel, just to let her know that it wasn't a goodbye, it was just a thank you for all the hard work that she has done since the very first day we opened and the forestry left the building. Way and beyond what was ever expected of her. So Matthew Nicholas gave her a job, which of course is paid, so naturally you're going to take that. So we just wanted to say thank you. So that was very well attended, and we let her know that everybody cared for what she'd done. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Were there any other activities to be tabled this evening? No? Okay, all right, thank you. So do we have a councillor to move a motion? No? Councillor Doyle. Sorry, someone to second? Councillor Lovell. And so all those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to item 11, council workshops, and I will hand over to our General Manager, Emilio, to talk about the workshops. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So on the 13th of October, Council was workshopped on 3 matters, the Huon Lawn Cemetery, an expression of interest on the Lawn Cemetery, looking at a process on utilising the land. Jeeves Town Hall engagement, Director of Community Services, actually provided councillors with a presentation overview on the engagement process so far, and to seek feedback and comments from councillors. This included a discussion about the next steps on where we or councillors would like to see the Jeeves Town Hall heading. And we also workshopped the Customer Service Charter. A draft was put to council after being rewritten, following council advice, and the workshop and discussion was to clarify councillors' view of it, ready to put it to a council meeting for endorsement. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we now move to item 12, councillor questions. There are no questions on notice. Are there any questions without notice this evening? No? Okay. All right. So we now move on to item 13. There are no notices of motion. And we move into report, Draft Bushfire Mitigation Measures Bill, agenda number 15.015/20. Oh, certainly, not a problem. So I'll just refer to the Director of Legal and Governance just for the first instance. Yes, thank you. Matthew?
Thank you, Mayor. This is just for clarity that an updated submission was circulated to all councillors this morning. It does not change the intent of the submission, it changes just some of the wording. There's also been a further clarification in relation to clause 24, where we just simply point out that clause 24 enables a clear shift in responsibility and associated cost to councils. So that's the submission that is being put forward. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Matthew. So do we have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, that's Councillor Gibson. A seconder? Sorry, Councillor Prince. Councillor Gibson, do you have any opening remarks?
I think the intention of the bill to mitigate bushfire danger is essential as climate heat increases, but the bill isn't clear on the how and appears to put the responsibility onto the individual landholders and implicates council in the implementation. Our submission makes it very clear how untenable this is. The problem of balancing fire mitigation and natural and cultural values needs a set of principles that protects those values and should include Aboriginal cultural heritage and land management practices as well, I believe.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Lovell.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it was how thoroughly that was gone over and how clear it made it was really good for me to be able to read and understand. So, yeah, I thought that was really good.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd just like to thank the Director of Legal Services. It's really good to have something set out so clearly And like Councillor Lovell has commented, actually getting something in front of you and you can see, you know, how important it is for council to put something forward where we're being pushed back against all the time from the state government. And I'm really thankful that we've got someone that's actually put it down very clearly to us. So thank you very much, Matthew.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Any other comments? No? Okay. I couldn't say any better than what's already been said here, to be honest. I couldn't add any more value. So over to you, Councillor Gibson, in closing.
Thank you to Matthew for making all the minor changes to tidy it up. It's great.
Lovely, thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. So we now move to the report review of Audit Panel Charter, agenda number 15.016/20. And councillors just referring to the recommendation before us this evening, which is at the back of this particular report. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Doyle. A seconder, please. Councillor Campbell. Councillor Doyle, do you have any opening remarks?
Only just that it makes it easier once this has gone through and we've done the recommendation. Just makes it easier for the audit panel.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Yes, just following on from Councillor Doyle, I think it is important that we have little things picked up for us as audit panel members, because you know, keeping an eye on things happening is, you know, really important for council. So I think that the new independent members are really guiding us in the way to move forward. So yes, just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? No, I don't have either. So, Councillor Doyle, do you have any closing comments?
No, Mayor.
Right, thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to councillor appointments. Agenda number 15.017/20. And I might hand over to the Director of Legal and Governance at this point.
Thank you, Mayor. Subsequent to the original report going out, nominations closed on Monday and an addendum to the report was issued. So as at that time, 2 nominations were received for Huonville Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee, which would require a ballot, and a nomination was received in relation to the Ranelagh Recreation Management Advisory Committee that would be declared elected. I understand, Mayor, that there may be some change in circumstances tonight before we proceed. So,
Thank you. Looks like Councillor Prince can assist me with that.
Through you, Mayor, I wish to withdraw my nomination. Having seen, I don't believe there is a councillor on this council more suited to the role of Huonville Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee than Councillor Lovell. So I do not think anyone could do a better job than her. Well done.
Oh, thank you. That's lovely said. So an automatic election to Councillor Lovell?
So, Mayor, yes, Councillor Lovell is declared elected.
All right, lovely. So that is then the Huonville Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee. New councillor member will be Councillor Lovell, and the Ranelagh Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee, the new councillor member will be Councillor Campbell.
I'd actually like to withdraw my...
You'd like to withdraw?
Yes, I'd like to withdraw. I feel I've got enough on my plate.
Okay.
And I'd actually like to nominate Councillor Gibson.
Councillor Gibson?
I'd like to put my hand up because I was late and I couldn't put my nomination in.
So we have 2 nominations?
I'm happy to withdraw my nomination.
Okay.
I was doing it because it needs to be done, but if you want to do it, I'm very happy for you to do it.
So,
Yes, I was just a bit late.
all right. So, for formalities purpose, Director, is there a formal ballot that needs to be done still, or is this suffice, this actual now resolving that Councillor Doyle is the preferred person and we can go to a motion and then vote?
Yes, Mayor. So Councillor Doyle, being the only nomination, is declared elected to the Ranelagh Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee. For the purposes of the motion that you would be looking at then, Mayor, it would be, as in the amended recommendation, A. B would be that the number of nominations having been received being equal to the number of vacancies, the council notes the election of the following as councillor members to the following committees. And the first one will be the Ranelagh Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee member and chair, Councillor Doyle. And the second one will be the Huonville Recreation Area Management Advisory Committee member and chair, Councillor Lovell. So that would be the motion that you would be moving.
Okay. So everybody understood that amended? Yes, thank you. All right. So that is the motion that we will be moving. Right, lovely, good. Just wanted to get some nods of heads is always very good. Okay, so do we have a councillor to move a motion? We have Councillor Prince. A seconder, please, Councillor O'May. Councillor Prince, do you have any comments to make?
I just want to say how civil and enjoyable that was. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Any further comments? Yes, Councillor O'May.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say congratulations to the two candidates. Great job.
Absolutely. Congratulations to both of you, and thank you very much for nominating for those roles. It's very appreciated. All right. So, Councillor Prince, do you have any closing comments? No? Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Please raise your... Okay, thanks. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. I know the committees will be very delighted to have you there as chairs. So the next report we have is deferral of Council's annual general meeting, agenda number 15.018/20. And once again, councillors, just referring to the recommendation at the back of this report. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor O'May. A seconder, please. Councillor Lovell. Councillor O'May, do you have any opening comments regarding this report?
No,
Thank you. Councillors, for discussion, are there any comments or questions you have? No. Okay. I don't have anything else to add either. So, all those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. We now move on to the financial report, agenda number 16.015/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor O'May. A seconder, please. Councillor Campbell. Councillor O'May, do you have any opening comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate our Director for doing a great job on the finances there. Yeah, I don't think anybody could have done a better job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any over to questions and comments? Does anybody have any comments or questions for either the General Manager or the Director?
No, Mayor.
Oh, yeah. I'll give it just a little bit more. I can see some flicking through some paperwork. Because once I say, then it goes to closing. Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just through to the Director of Finance. On page 1 of 11, just on the interest charges there, just looking at the annual forecast down to 100,000, could I ask you, is that just on our investments at the moment that you're expecting? Is that on our invested funds? Sorry.
Yes, Mayor, that's correct. So we ended the year with a budget of 200,000. Sorry. Yes, sorry, Mayor. Yes, we came into the year budgeting for $200,000 on interest earnings on our investments.
Yeah.
As a result of the decrease in interest rates, we're now forecasting that to be $100,000, so we've halved it. Yep.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that, David.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all right, I have a few. Okay, so just firstly, David, the notes that you provide for this report continuously are very helpful, I have to say, very helpful. So, yeah, it's interesting to see that even with COVID, comparing last financial year to this financial year, there's very little difference with the rates outstanding. So that indicating that, as you were saying, that hardship policy's not really being used as we might have thought. Probably across local government maybe is the same. It'd be interesting to know. In relation to year-to-date capital works in progress, so that's pages 5 to 11. I've got some questions around those. So I note there's good savings under completed projects, which is the stormwater main drain project and the Huonville rec ground change rooms. So there's seems to be underspent there. But under roads reseal, a transfer amount of 75k has been added to site investigations for 2021. And I'm just wondering why that might have occurred. And if you can't answer it now,
Mayor, I can
You
actually,
can?
yeah, I can answer that.
Great.
So on the year-to-date capital works report, the savings you mentioned, the stormwater, the main drain project, there are still around about $250,000 worth of committed costs to go on that.
okay.
But once they're on, there still will be a saving. It will come in under budget, and it's actually about the contingency amount that we added for any issues or unforeseens.
Yeah.
The Huonville rec ground change rooms are similar. There's probably a bit over $1,000 in outstanding commitments. In other words, invoices still to come in on that, which we're expecting fairly soon, but we will still also come in under budget and have a slight surplus, which is also the contingency amount. The surplus funds will be transferred back into the asset class, that program. So we do have unders and overs that they offset. Under that roads reseal program, a transfer amount of $75,000, that was actually taken from site investigations to actually cover the cost of some additional works that was required. So you'll see that there's the Walton Street project, and that site investigations, they were merged, and it was to fund extra works required in additional road-based works that was undertaken, which was unforeseen, and additional stormwater works that were not actually included in the original design that had to be undertaken while we were doing the road work.
Oh, okay. So it was identified during the actual project.
Yes, once we opened it up and commenced work.
Okay.
The two items were identified, the additional box out it's called, so additional road base and additional stormwater works.
Okay. Under projects, a transfer amount of 84,286 has been added to Walton Street, Huonville.
Yep, so that's the same.
Oh, that's the same.
Yeah, so those two
related,
projects.
are they?
Yes. They
Oh,
are
okay.
related,
Sorry,
Mayor.
didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mayor. I
Yep.
just might add that we're
Yep.
still refining this capital works
Yep.
in progress report, and so some of the discussions we're having about whether, if the job's physically completed and we still know there's invoices to come, we maybe have to hold off on that completed or actually add the commitment, so it doesn't actually cause this sort of confusion. So so it is something that we have already identified.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good that it's already being discussed.
Yeah.
So under buildings 40A extension, noting 121% has been expended to date, with 40% of the work completed. Does that indicate that there's a revised estimation of this project?
Yes, Mayor. The full budget's not shown on that line as yet. So that was the The original extension work, the number was still active and is being used for some additional work. The project's currently been re-quoted, so that includes changes to scope due to the move of Community Services Department to 25 Main Street. And the budget will be updated, and when all quotes are received, and the reporting will show the correct expenditure and budget amount by next reporting period, which will be next month.
Okay.
Yep.
And so that money is, the increase is sitting in a pot of money under buildings, is that?
Yes, that's
Yeah,
correct,
that's
Mayor,
it,
and it hasn't
yeah.
actually been allocated to
Yeah.
that project
Okay,
yet.
all right,
Yep.
thank you for explaining that. And under grants, I just thought it would be helpful for the public to understand why the EV fast charger at Geeveston ran over budget. I thought that might be
Yep.
a good one to explain.
Yep, I can explain that. So with the grant that we received from the state government, it was for the charger station itself. So that was $50,000 for that fast charger. Now, originally that charger was going to go hard against the wall, which meant there was not a lot of civil work to be done. But in discussions with the Geeveston Town Hall Company and wanting to activate the space behind the Town Hall, it was decided that it's probably better in the location it is now, just in the car park a little bit. So there's some additional civil work, but a lot of the overrun was to do with the switchboard upgrade. So the Town Hall actually had to have a switchboard upgrade, and a supply main had to be upgraded to provide more, handle the current, the draw. So that's where the additional cost came in. So council had to fund that part of it.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So Mayor, just on the switchboard upgrade though, it proved pretty prudent to do that, because we actually upgraded it to cater for a lift, if we were able to get a lift as well. So yeah, it was actually quite beneficial for us as well.
Future-proofing the Geeveston
Yes.
Town Hall.
Yeah,
with
thinking
what-
ahead we were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, all right, thank you. And just since you are reviewing that report, is there an opportunity then to do it in such a way that it's very similar to the finance report, which has the overs and unders and the notations? Because that's certainly, those notations that the financial report have is a very...
Yes, ma'am.
It's the questions I wouldn't need to ask.
Yes, I was about to say, it
yeah.
probably would actually explain some of the, what we're discussing now. So we have an asset management group meeting, which we run every couple of months, and a lot of the, we monitor and oversee the capital works program, so a lot of this would actually be in our minutes and notes there, so we can actually transfer that to the capital works report as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you,
no
and
worries,
thank you very much for answering those
No
questions too.
problems, ma'am.
Councillor O'May, do you have any closing comments?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. After the last few comments from our General Manager, my comments earlier were specifically in reference to our Director of Finances, and duly deserved. But I'd also like to congratulate our General Manager and the rest of our staff and employees. This country's just been through one of the most turbulent times that it could have been in most people's lifetime, and we're still not out of the woods yet. And to think that our Director of Finances has come into a new position with such budget restraints and income frustrations, and our General Manager being able to deal with that in the manner that he has, it's a credit to you and also the community for observing the fact that we've had to all pull our belts in and think of others. And I just think that it's a great achievement, and from Councillor Newell's comments before in regards to the increase in work for our Director of Planning, I think there's also, from word on the street, a lot of people wanting to move to the valley simply because it's out of the metropolis. We've pretty much come out of this unscathed, apart from the finance side of things, compared to other states such as Victoria and the metropolises of Sydney and Melbourne. So just a general congratulation to everybody and their great effort for for soldiering on through this, and keep heads up and look forward to next year.
Thank you, Councillor O'May.
Yep, thank you also. It's always a great team effort. Everyone here pulls together very well, so thank you for that. Thanks.
So I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We're now going to review of investment of funds policy, Gov-Fin 001 agenda number 16.016/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Thank you, Councillor Gibson. A seconder, please. Oh.
Just before a minor amendment for discussion.
Right, that is...
Under the objectives, to return the emphasis back to preservation of capital as a principal objective of the investment portfolio whilst optimising returns to community benefit. Instead of, as it reads at the moment, the council's objective is to maximise council's return on investments while ensuring security of funds.
Perhaps, are you able to, for the purpose of assisting your fellow councillors, are you able to reference the actual attachments? Three of 17, is it? Yeah, so there's two policies within that. There's a track changed one, and then there's the former one, or what should I say, the current one? That hasn't-
No, one's a plain one with the changes.
The policy statement is the
Yeah.
3.1.
3.1 is what we're looking at.
Yeah, go to the page, what the policy statement was, and cross out preservation of capital. It's just a question of emphasis, really. I think it makes a slight difference.
All right, so we can get that up for discussion. Have you got a seconder?
Second discussion.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay, Councillor
Thank you.
Campbell.
Yes.
So over to you to speak.
Yeah, I think that obviously the preservation of capital is important, and that should be indexed for inflation, etc. Beyond that, I think that there's times where there are other benefits to the community other than straight remuneration interest from investments. So, for example, the prime example is that investing in Bendigo Bank, which provides an enormous benefit to the community, but may not give the best return for money. And so, and there's lots of other options, other examples, like, you know, in a COVID emergency, you may change. Do I need to start again?
No, continue.
Yeah, I just think that we should be looking at of course we should be looking at the return on investment, but we should also look at other community benefits.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just go over to the rest of the councillors to the floor so that they can ask questions of you as well if they need to seek clarification, but also make comments. Yes, Councillor Newell.
I don't understand actually the wording, what that's going to change, Paul, at all. I mean, to me, it's just a technical little thing, but you know, I think what we're voting on is investment should be allowed to ensure there's sufficient liquidity in this COVID environment. We don't know what we might have to spend a bit of extra money on.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the point of it. I mean, we can't always you know.
It's not about the liquidity, it's just about what the priorities are with the investment, whether you're investing as the priority is to maximise return and financially, or it's to secure the investment and maximise the advantage to the community overall, which may be financial, but it may also have other benefits.
But that's virtually what it says. Well,
to maximise council's return on its investment. That's the policy statement. And the policy statement used to read, preservation of the capital is the principal objective. I mean, it is a minor thing.
But that isn't it in a nutshell. It does go on to say investment should be allocated to ensure there's sufficient liquidity to meet all reasonable anticipated cash flow requirements, which covers off on what you're saying, that it still allows us to invest in whatever we like, you know, in COVID times. So it's well and truly got your concerns covered in that next paragraph.
Well, I mean, that part about liquidity has been covered elsewhere. I can't remember exactly where because this has been reorganised in a very clear. The new layout is much better. It's got the purpose and the policy that. So I mean, I can't remember. Perhaps remind me where the liquidity issue is covered. It is covered somewhere else.
We might move to another question as well. So, Councillor Prince, you have a question, do you, or a comment? Come back to you. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments that councillors would like to make?
Yes, Mayor. We today I asked a couple of questions of the director, and I understand how the ratings work and how it's worked out. So I don't have an issue now. Once I've done that, I don't have an issue now with any of the wording.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think Councillor Prince is preparing himself.
Well, through you, Mayor, we'll give this a bit of a run, see how this plays out. Just a question for you, Councillor Gibson, through you, Mayor, if I can get this right. So your amendment is to do with the wording instead, and correct me if I'm wrong, instead of being maximise council return, it's preservation of capital.
And maximise benefit to the community.
So that's okay, because preservation and maximising capital, I don't think there's a huge difference there when you start to look at our risk, the actual risk level we're willing to go into. I think by maximising capital in this risk framework, you're probably also going to preserve finances anyway. So just the question being, are you looking more to see the finances of council directed into locally beneficial organisations?
Yes. We'll definitely keep that as an opening, so that you're not always tied to seeking the highest return, financial return.
So can I ask a second question then?
You can ask questions, yes.
So through you, Mayor, then to the Director of Finance, in the current set of words, is that not still possible?
Through you, Mayor, the current policy and what we're proposing here both provide for local community benefit to be advantaged, if you like, through the maximum limits that we can place with any given institution. So I think we all sort of know possibly who we're talking about here. So credit institutions that are rated A2, under the current policy, we can have a maximum of our portfolio, 60% of our portfolio with A2s. And individually, 20% with A2s. But for those that provide a local community benefit, we relax that, and it's in the policy, to enable up to 25%. But it is still subject to the best interest rate. So if the suggestion is that we favour any institution that provides a local community benefit, however we would seek to try and define that, when they're not necessarily providing the best return, that would be a departure from current policy and would probably introduce a level of judgment at officer level which would be, difficult, I would think, to implement, because it leaves us in the space of, well, do we favour the local at a lower rate, or will I place it with the higher rate who's not local? And I think as officers we would need more guidance around that than that sort of being open-ended like that.
Thank you, Director. So you want to ask a question now, Councillor Campbell? Yes?
The Director, through you,
Yes,
Mayor.
through me, yes.
Can you suggest, you know what I'm trying to achieve, and I can see your difficulty. Is there a way of making it so that that door is open? I guess that's really all I would like to achieve, so that if there is an opportunity to invest in something that we all feel, and that would obviously be a council decision, is worth investing in, even though it's not giving us the maximum return, we can do that.
A difficult one to answer. I'm not sure if I quite understood, but are you suggesting that in those circumstances we would bring that decision back to council each time? Because I don't think that would work, because interest rates obviously apply for a given point in time, and with council meetings only being monthly, so time might get away from us. So I'm just finding this a little bit difficult to implement, I suppose,
Yes.
if it's sort of left open-ended like that.
Just a question. I know Councillor Campbell wants to ask a question as well. So my understanding is this sounds like it's something that needs to be discussed in a workshop, because it's a different approach. So therefore, my understanding is that at any particular time, council can bring back a policy up to council again at any point in time. So if after a workshop it was deemed that council wanted to go a bit of a different direction with that policy, because that allows you to look at the full ramifications as well and how that impacts your business area, that is absolutely something that we know we can do at any time. So I suppose that was really probably a mixture of a statement and a question, but that was my only statement then in that case. I've used it. But I'm seeing a nod from you, so yeah. Councillor Campbell.
Yes, David, if I could just ask, if we're talking about holding public funds and we're accountable to the public for them, obviously, so if we're investing funds and we know that, would you say then that those funds are not keeping up with, the public funds aren't keeping up with, because of the interest rate being so low? Isn't there a risk to the public that we're not actually, to use the word maximise there to me is a little bit ambivalent, because we can't actually maximise returns at that stage, and that's my concern about it. It's the using the word maximise, because if we looked at, say, something, for example, with the community hub. Now, we're trying to maximise what we can get from that. I see it in that same light, because I think because you've got to look at what you're making on your return, and it might be that we can make something on a return that gives benefit to the community, particularly at this point in time. It might be something small, but it might have more merit as a capital gain, so to speak, for the community, when council's under pressure at the moment to try and meet all the needs of the community. And I know that in time we will have to, reassess that. But I think just at this point in time, I think from my point of view, and I think I can understand where Councillor Gibson's coming from, we're actually trying to maximise what's going to benefit the community. So that's my comment on that. Thanks, David. Just a question. Is there any sense in what I'm saying to you?
Yeah, there certainly is. What we need to do is to consider the word maximise within the parameters of the policy. So at paragraph 3.2.3, and I'm on page 13 of 17 of the attachment. So paragraph 3.2.3 sets out what we consider to be the kinds of investments that we can invest in. So what we're seeking to do is to maximise our return within the confines of those permitted investments. And you'll notice that those permitted investments are very limited. So it's government bonds, it's bank term deposits, it's bank bills of exchange, and it's deposits with Tascorp, which is guaranteed by the state. So within that fairly limiting and conservative policy parameter, we seek to maximise our return, and that's done by interest rate. But, and as been pointed out, interest rates at the moment are very low. If we were to take a more broader view of maximising our investment, we would necessarily need to consider a broader range of investment types, which then obviously brings into scope, higher risks if you're going to get into different investment types. And that's entirely a policy decision for council. If there was a mood to consider a broader range of investment types, my recommendation would be to defer the item and take it to a workshop. In saying that, I would just simply say, as has been pointed out, we are dealing with public funds here, and I think it's appropriate that we are conservative. The local government industry generally is very conservative. When I was researching the update of this policy, it was just interesting to note that the Tasmanian Local Government Act, the South Australian Local Government Act, actually don't provide any constraints in terms of what investments we can invest in, other than just the sort of prudent person kind of test. Whereas the other states, Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, and I didn't check Western Australia, their local government acts do provide a very limited range of investments that councils can invest in. So in other words, in those states, through legislation, it mandates councils have very conservative investment policies. So I just provide that by way of information. If we were to sort of try or wanting to broaden out our investment scope, that would be a departure from the industry norm.
Okay, thank you.
But I would recommend if you wanted to do that, we need to have a workshop,
Yeah.
and we'd probably need to get some professional advice around so we fully understood the risks and benefits of heading down a different track.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you for that response, David. It was, I certainly wouldn't be encouraging any high risk. It's more about what council can gain a benefit from, in terms of community. And that's why I think that I'm just sort of struggling with the word maximise, because I think we can maximise something for the community, not necessarily in a really high risk area. I'd never invest in that myself. So just wanted to clarify that. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Councillor O'May?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I believe that the Director of Finance's overall picture that he's just given us there is very clear to me that he's doing the right approach to public funds. It wasn't that long ago that we had a fiasco with trying to maximise returns, and we certainly don't want to go down that track again. So I understand where Councillor Gibson's coming from, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think, if you poke your hand out too far, you might get it chopped off. So I think our Director of Finances is doing a very good job, and under very turbulent times, and we should give him all the support that we can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'May. I haven't been recording who's been making comments. It was only, if you've made a comment, it's only questions now. So, okay. So we might just take it straight to a vote then. Yeah, we are voting on the amended. Absolutely, yes. Okay.
Well, it sounds to me that it's not clear enough, and it would not be operable, as I.
Yeah. So
Well, let's vote on it.
we still need to vote on it because an amendment was put forward. So we need to go through that process, and then we'll go to the original. If it fails, we'll go to the original motion and go through that. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. And sorry, can you keep your hands up, please? So that's Councillor Campbell and Councillor Gibson that are in favour. And those against, hands up, please. That's Councillor Doyle, Councillor Newell, Councillor O'May, Councillor Prince, and Councillor Lovell, and Mayor Enders. Thank you. So now we'll go to the original motion. Just if everybody could just turn to that page, please, just to refresh themselves what you're voting for. Okay. So I'd like to, if I can move a motion. So Councillor Newell, seconder. Councillor Doyle. Councillor Newell, do you have any opening comments?
Look, only that I've read this through the week, and I think it's a great motion, well worded, covers our bums, and also allows a bit of flexibility.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Any comment, Councillor Prince? Yes.
Yeah, just one briefly, Mayor, and this is more based on conversations that have arisen with some members of the public. And just to clarify for anyone listening, if it was my personal funds, I would probably invest quite differently and a bit more risky and probably around ETFs based on, say, disruptive technology. But being that it is public funding, I'm very happy with this method of investment. I think it makes a lot of sense. So that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Lovely. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Lovell.
I just wanted to say, Paul, I understand where you're coming from, wanting to support local where possible. I completely understand, but I do also totally agree that to look after our funds, we can't in this context, I don't think, mix the two. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Sorry, Councillor Gibson. Yes.
I mean, just reinforcing, I like the layout and clarity of this, of the new policy.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you. And I'm always open to a workshop to explore things further at some stage down the track. So, but okay, lovely. All right. So let's move to the motion. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. And thank you, Director of Finance, David, for responding to those questions for us. So I now advise that the council is acting as a planning authority as at 7:38. Thank you. In accordance with the provisions of Part 2 Regulation 25 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015, the council will now act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 in accordance with Regulation 25. Okay. So the application, the report we have before us is planning application DA 222/2020, change of use, visitor accommodation, caravan park at 2 Hayes Road, Franklin, and adjoining Crown land to the southwest and east of 2 Hayes Road. Agenda number 17.022/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor Gibson.
I'd like to move an amended motion, if that's all right.
You want to move an amended motion? Can you speak to the amended motion, please?
Well, it's just with regard to the landscaping along the residential zone. I was wondering whether, I mean, I do seek clarification through you, Mayor, to the Director, if possible, about the Clarence Council, Cleggan, Oars versus Clarence. I don't know quite what that is, but it seems to me that the the intention of the Palais in running this RV area is to work with residents. Nobody wants the residents to be affected, and this 2 metre depth of landscaping that is the acceptable solution for this situation might ameliorate that situation.
Yes, thank you, Director.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Councillor Gibson. So the reference to the tribunal case is because some of the representatives have referenced specific clauses to do with residential amenity. Now, those clauses specifically talk about non-residential uses near a residential zone and do not result in unreasonable adverse impacts on residential amenity. The reason why that tribunal case is referenced is because that specific question regarding the village zone, which is what the surrounding properties are, was addressed in that tribunal case, whether or not a village zone is considered to be a residential zone. So in that tribunal finding was that the village zone should not be considered to be a residential zone. I understand, I think, the concerns that are raised around, I guess, whether there's an amenity impact on the couple of properties behind it. But I guess it's pointing to the fact that from a purely planning scheme perspective, we don't have the powers to require that through these clauses because it's not a residential zone. So those clauses are specific to a residential zone. So notwithstanding what the proponents might otherwise do, we can't require that specifically through the planning permit process.
And that's despite it being a residence for a history of its...
Yes, yeah, because the wording's not a residence, it's a residential zone, yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Well, on understanding that, I might not proceed with that.
Okay.
Because it doesn't...
Just a procedural thing. In future, if anybody is moving an amended motion, they need to have made those inquiries first, because it's not an opportunity to state that you're going to amend a motion and then ask for professional advice or qualified advice at that point in time. So just if that could be noted for today. Thank you. Well, noted for today and for the future. All right, so I will go back and take one step back, and I will ask if there is a councillor to move a motion for this recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Gibson. A seconder, please. Yes, Councillor Prince. Councillor Gibson, do you have any opening comments?
Well, I mean, it's the same old thing with the planning scheme. State planning scheme has a whole lot of rules that you have to stick to but don't make a lot of sense. I'm hoping that the Palais will be understanding of the neighbours and make some adjustments outside the planning scheme.
Thank you. Open to the floor for comments or questions. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Lovell.
I'd just like to note, the concerns of the residents that live right on the boundaries, and I know it's not a planning matter consideration, but on the level of when you live next door to somebody, that's somebody you live next door to every day of your life. With a caravan park, you actually have different people coming and going. So I'm hoping the same as Councillor Gibson, that there's some things agreed to which will help these guys out.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Doyle.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Along with Councillor Lovell, I mean, the big thing that we are promoting these days through health and wellbeing is, one of the things is care for your neighbour. So I sincerely hope that the Palais does do as they have said they will. And after meeting with them at the Hall Committee, I'm pretty sure they will, because they are willing to work with most people, as they've shown with the car park problems. They are there to help. So I just hope that they can find a solution for some of the houses that back onto there, because, you know, it is something that we're allowing people to park in their area, but it is there to be used, and I know that the whole of Franklin like having the caravans there, and we don't want to hold this up. So I would love to hear back from the Palais after they have done their communications.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. No, look, I've just got some information that I wanted to share. So I have spoken to a member of the Franklin community who has linked up with at the invitation of the Palais Management Committee, and this resident has actually a lot of experience with the CMCA and enjoying parks across Australia, but also has sort of a higher level management, has had a higher level management roles and influence in that area. And the Palais Management Committee have recognised that. And so what will be occurring is that there will be a subcommittee formed of the Palais Management Committee, which this person will sit on and provide advice to them. And the first thing that they have on their agenda is to actually meet with the neighbours of the properties that are directly located behind. They have read the letters of representation. They have been aware of the concerns in the past as well, but certainly they are viewing everything that's in those particular letters from the representations from the neighbours. They will be, as a result of that subcommittee, these are the outcomes that they are looking to achieve, and that is adopting a model code around managing behaviours and operation of the actual site, which will include like an after hours number as well, and that number will be issued to the neighbours should there be any concerns. There will be a site layout done, and they're reviewing the setback from the neighbours' properties as well in that process. There will be an identification method of actually what really is truly a self-contained vehicle. And they were taking total responsibility for ensuring that every RV that is on site is actually self-contained. And there will be signage erected, which will include those adoption of the local rules and the contact number. And they'll also be promoting the local businesses as well in the particular area. So I'm very comforted from that conversation that even there hasn't needed to be any request or necessary dialogue with the Palais Management Committee. They are our community in Franklin, and they all have relationships with other people in the community in Franklin. So I have every confidence that they will take the best care in ensuring that there is as least impact on the neighbours as possible. Thank you. So, Councillor Gibson, do you have any closing comments?
Was there any mention of landscaping along that edge, or is that?
It's very fluid, is my understanding, Councillor Gibson. Very fluid, and that's why they actually want their first objective is to meet with those residents.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
No further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move to the next report, draft amendment to be initiated under former section 34(1)B of the Land Use Planning and Approvals Act 1993 to amend the attenuation area overlay of the Huon Valley Interim Planning Scheme 2015, applicable to the Cygnet Treatment Plant 7321 Channel Highway, Cygnet, CT 157713/1. Agenda number 17.023/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, thank you. Councillor Lovell. A seconder, please. Yes, Councillor O'May. Councillor Lovell, do you have any opening comments?
Not on this one, thanks, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councils for discussion, are there any comments or questions, please? Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, I've had a question today from a couple of residents in Cygnet, who live very close to this water treatment, and they've asked me to inquire why this has sort of been triggered now. They're just concerned, obviously, that it's very close to them, and I believe it's to do with the upcoming subdivision, and I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. So that'll be through to
the Director. Yes, Director Luke. True.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The subdivision that we initiated at the last council meeting is what's, I guess, triggered the review of it, because previously that land's been vacant, so it hasn't really triggered any need to look at it. Yeah. I know it's a somewhat complex report because it's a planning scheme amendment, but I guess the essence of it's reasonably simple. So the current overlay is mapped as having an attenuation distance of 400 metres. That translated from the old planning scheme. The current planning scheme, when you look at the table as to the type of plant it is and the the volume that goes through it, would only require it to be 200 metres. Tas Water only requires it to be 200 metres. The expert reports all suggest it only needs to be 200 metres. So there's a bit of an anomaly between the planning scheme where the old maps translated still showing it as 400 metres. So it's really inconsistent in terms of what the scheme would otherwise require and what Tas Water even requires. And certainly Tas Water wouldn't be agreeing to it if they thought that it needed to be bigger, because the implications will go back to them if people start complaining about the odours and so on. So reasonably confident that the residents shouldn't have any concern about it reducing. It's really just, I guess, fixing the anomaly within the scheme where the mapped area was a lot bigger than what it should be.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, you had a question?
A question again through you to the Director. I understand that Tas Water has relaxed this boundary in prior cases, so it's not a special. It's not entirely relating to this subdivision, but that's what's triggered it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So the subdivision's triggered looking at it, but Tas Water aren't saying it's okay only because of the subdivision. They're saying it's okay based on the type of plant it is and the volumes that go through it. It's only required to be 200 metres.
Any other questions or comments? I'm totally satisfied that the the qualified advice that's been given to council is in line with asking for the draft amendment. So, thank you. All right, Councillor Lovell, do you have any closing comments at all?
No, thank you.
All right, lovely. Okay, so all those, so I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. So I now advise that council is no longer acting as a planning authority as at 7:53. Thank you. We now move on to the next report, which is Grants and Benefits Policy Review, agenda number 19.022/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Thank you. Councillor Lovell. Seconder, please. Councillor Prince. Councillor Lovell, do you have any opening comments?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just really happy that we've taken the time to look at this, and with Year 11 and 12 coming into Dover as well, I think it's great that we can open up this to our Year 11 and 12 students. Thank you.
Any other comments? No? Okay. All right. So any closing comments, Councillor Lovell? No. Okay. No problem. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. We now move on to the report, Management Committee's Annual General Meeting Nominations 2020, agenda number 19.023/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Campbell. Seconder? Oh, Councillor Doyle. Councillor Campbell, do you have any opening remarks?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I'd just like to say that going along to some of the committee meetings, to the AGMs. It's been a real privilege to just be there and see the amount of work that all these volunteers do. It's quite amazing how, they actually get in and they, get involvement with their particular committee. And I just think it's wonderful that we can have volunteers doing this around the valley, because it's actually quite a big job when you take on a committee like this. And yes, I'd just like to thank them all for their commitment to running the halls in such an efficient way. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. Now open for discussion, comments and questions. Yes, Councillor Lovell.
I just wanted to say congratulations to everybody who was elected to their positions. And just looking through here, I think there's actually over 100 people all up if we added those together in there. So I think that's great. That's a lot of volunteers.
Yeah, it is.
For our valley.
Absolutely. Yes, Councillor Doyle.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I would just like to add that, with the cutting of their money they receive, the hall money, even some that were slightly agitated that it might have happened, by attending and actually owning it and talking it through with them, they came away understanding that might not been what they wanted, but it was the best in that situation. So I think, I always said that if I was going to cut something, I'd front up and tell them why. And we also, through the Director of Community Services, that the staff that turned up to everyone as well, they copped it on the chin just as much. And we all went away letting them know that no one was going to see any of them falter, that we were always going to be there for them. It was just something that had to happen. But in saying that, I noticed that some of them have been fundraising already, which is really good to help pay their costs. And I look forward to, going to a few of those along the way, because I'm pretty sure they'll invite me.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Prince.
Just briefly, Mayor. Just looking through the list, there's some names on there of people that are quite young, and that is quite impressive to take up the mantle of being on a committee at such a young age. So congratulations.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll just say a couple of things. Unfortunately, I didn't get to as many of the AGMs that were on my list originally. I tried my best. I got to a few, which was great, and absolutely, it was really important to be there, Deputy, to actually, instead of the staff being able to filter the questions around the budget cuts. It was us that actually, obviously, ultimately made that decision. So it was really good to be there and to be involved in that discussion. I'd also like to recognise the contribution that the outgoing members made as well. And I know there was a huge change with the Dover group, and with a whole new committee coming in, and some very long-serving members of our community there who have done a champion job over the years in Dover. And also just to acknowledge that it is a huge investment that our volunteers make into our community assets and the people that interact with them, and that just acknowledge that we really do know that we really do value their time, because they could be doing something else, but they're doing something for their community in association with council, and that's really special. So thank you. Councillor Campbell, do you have anything in closing?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. So we go to the Ranelagh Recreation Ground Master Plan Amendment, agenda number 19.024/20. Do we have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor O'May. And a seconder, please. Councillor Campbell. Councillor O'May, do you have any opening comments?
No, Mayor. I don't at this stage.
At this stage? Well, you might have something for closing comment.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, I'll hold off at this stage.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Over to the floor for councillors' comments and questions. Yes, over to you, Councillor Doyle.
I have been meeting with a few of these groups, especially the cricket club, and I've had meetings with the director and the general manager, and I think a fresh new start's going to be a good thing, and hopefully that everyone will move forward once they have a clear view of what their path is. So it's good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, thank you. Councillor Lovell.
Through you, Mayor, can I just clarify point C there? The council does not support the inclusion of indoor cricket nets or a new community sports club on the Ranelagh Recreation Ground master plan. Can you just clarify for me the new community sports club, what that was going to entail?
Certainly. I might go over to the Director of Community Services to actually provide the level of detail that you might require for that. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Councillor Bird. So in the attachments there is a copy of the master plan, and it's the orange building that is referred to as item number, I've only got it little, item number 30 I think. So I'll just point it out. It's the smaller building closest to the boundary fence.
I couldn't quite read. I'm sorry, I couldn't quite read.
No, I do apologise. It is. I can't even read that.
No, that's all good.
Yeah, so it's the orange building there closest to the.
So that would have been instead of the.
Yep. So where the current car park is in the current building.
Yep.
It's proposed that under that plan there that would be removed.
Yep.
And it'd be replaced with the new club rooms.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No. I think the recommendation certainly mirrors the original intention of the work that's been done previously. I know that this is being revised again. I think it's the third time that it's been revised. So I think it's really important that the groups involved have some finalisation of it so they can move on, and certainly the the cricket club rooms are on the actual 5 to 10 year, identified as a 5 to 10 year project, 5 to 10 years from now. So it's not as though it's not off the list. It's just off this particular stage of what we're at now with developing that particular ground. All right. So, Councillor O'May, do you have any closing comments at all?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to comment on the ground, on what a great facility it is, how it's been used by the Agricultural Society and the Show Committee for a large number of years, as well as the fact that it's got great parking beside it. There are not too many places in the valley which have this facility, and the fact that how it was also used for a couple of events recently over the last few years, the Winterfest and whatnot. So I just want to put emphasis on what a great multi-use facility this is, and how we should promote it as such. And it's very pleasing to the eye when you drive up and down the road there. It really has a country feel to it, with a pony club and whatnot beside it. So yeah, we should try and keep it in its entirety as much as possible. That's all I've got to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's all councillors present, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, so it's that time of the evening where we move into closed session. And for those that are viewing this evening, thank you very much for joining us, and tune in next month. See you then. Thank you.